Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what is a data modeling. Data modeling is a very, very big topic, guys. People have written the books on it. Okay, so I mean, the more you dive into it, the more you learn, and this all comes with the experience. Okay, so we also learn. Data modeling is what? Data modeling is actually when you have multiple tables and you want to look up the information from one table to another, and you want to create the visuals. You want to bring all those different table informations under one roof. Okay, that is called the data modeling. How to do that? Now, if you have noticed one thing, so far the visuals that we have created, the tags we have created, we have always used one table, toy, toy data, toy shop data, isn't it? Right? But you know that practically we have more tables where we have to go and fetch the information from different tables. You all are working in Excel, and in Excel there are many times when you have to use the VLOOKUPs, when you have to go and bring the data from different files, put that data under one file, compile it, filter it, slice and dice it, and then make the dashboards. I mean, get the relevant information, isn't it? That is how it is, right? So how will you do all that in Power BI? We are talking about here more than one table if you have, but all the tables belongs to the same company, same organization, same, you can say, uh, uh, the categories. I mean, I have three tables. One table has half of the information. The second information, the table has half of the information. The third has the half of the information, though all they are representing the same thing. Okay. So how we are going to go and work with those things. So first of all, let's check this. Okay. So I'm going to give you one example here, right? Many people, they come to me, the students, they say, sir, will you teach us the data modeling? Actually, it's very tough. We don't really understand the data modeling, right? And in interviews, a lot of questions people ask us about the data modeling. So we're going to discuss this. We're going to, I mean, as I said, that there's never end to it. The more the learn and then the better you become. So, but still, we will try to clear our fundamentals, the basic, that the problem which actually comes in understanding it, and which is why people are not actually able to work with the multiple data. Okay. So you see, first of all, we have one very simple table, which is employee IDs, order numbers, and sales, right? And then there is another file, which is where we have the same employee IDs. The header is different, but the quantity is mentioned in the different table. Basically, we want to look up this information. We want to see the employee IDs against the quantity, and we want to get the sales also here in the Power BI. Okay, so how are we going to do it? So first of all, I'm going to import all these tables for you. Okay, so let's import the table. Employee quantity. So we have this, the table, state dimension table. I'm using the dimension word. I'll tell you what is it. So we have got the table here. So employee ID with the quantity. Then there's another table where we have their sales. Okay. So let's say you're maintaining two tables differently, or maybe people have given you this and they asked you to create the report, isn't it? So you have the two tables. And as you can see here in both the tables, both the tables, they are of basically, same organization. I mean, they should actually be used together. I mean, they are not different actually, though they are being maintained differently. Now, here you have employee ID and the quantity. Let's create the table actually here. We can see the information here. So I'm going to create here one table here and one table here. Okay. So now for the first time, you're working actually with the multiple tables, right? So let's say I put here the employee ID. and the quantity. Okay. And let's go here and say, don't summarize. So we have the information. It actually has aggregated this, because if you put any field, which is a number, here, it just go and does this aggregation sum. Anyways, I've just removed that. You can see, okay, so this is just again for your information. Never get confused why you're not able to see the entire data. Employee ID, and I'm just going to use the sales here. Okay, again, see that it has actually used the count. Okay, don't summarize, right? Okay, fine. And the last thing I want to do is, let me just create the borders here. Okay, so, and also the values. So you can see this clearly. Fine. So one is here, this table, and this table, let me change this to bold headers or alternative. Okay. So one is this table, and second is this table. Okay. So you have two tables here. All right. Now, you see, this table and this table, there can be other tables also. There can be three more tables also, where you have employee ID with penalty. You have profit, isn't it? Imagine in this way. Now, I have two tables, but I want these, the columns, I want to see this in single table. That is what I want. That is what I want. Okay. Now, if you see here, this model, data modeling, remember we discussed about this when we started the BI. This is the data modeling tab. This is where you go and create the relationships. You tell the BI that, look, I have 4 tables, and all these 4 tables are supposed to work with each other. And how? How? You need to tell that. Right now, these are the tables. Okay? Simple tables. Let's go back here. Now see, when you have multiple informations, different informations in different tables, obviously you want all that in one visual, isn't it? Because if I have 4 more tables, I will not create the 4 different tables for that, or maybe the visual for that. We want all the information. Like, for example, I want a table, or maybe a graph, any graph, where I can say that I have a employee ID, and I have a sales, and I have a quantity there, right? Like, for example, see now, I'm going to use this employee ID here. Okay, you have the employee ID here. Let's go and say that this is my don't summarize. So I have the employee ID. Fine. I want to see its quantity. Fine. It's coming. Nothing new for us. Now I also want to see the sales, or maybe the order number also. Okay. Now what will happen if I put the sales here? What do you think? For BI, these tables are different tables, isn't it? For BI, this is a different table. If you see, I am not able to see the sales. The number is incorrect. The number is incorrect. There is some number. Let's not get into that, how this number is coming. It's incorrect, right? Why this is incorrect? The reason is that because you are actually trying to look up this information from the different table. You're using this employee ID, right? Now, same way, if I create the copy of this, and now let's say, now what I will do, I will not use this employee ID. I will use this employee ID. Okay. So is this going to work for me? Maybe we can check. So let's use this employee ID now. And it's sales. Obviously sales will come because they are from the same table, isn't it? Let's say don't summarize. And now quantity I also want. And there can be more headers also. As I said, there can be more headers also. Fundamentals remains the same. Okay. Now, if you see here that in this case, now the quantity is a challenge, because quantity is coming from a different table. And here it's a sales table. Sales is coming from a different table based on the employee ID that you're using. Okay. That's the point. So how do we get all this information under one table? Because, now same way, if you create a visual here, the visual will also have the same problem. They'll give you the wrong numbers, isn't it? Because if I just go and, I say Control C and Control V, and let's say I want to create maybe this visual, for example, like this, you see that this is the problem. This is the problem. Everywhere you see the quantity as 797, isn't it? Right? So this is where now we need to work. We need to tell the BI that, look, BI, I have these 2 tables, and they actually are, they must have a relationship. It's like VLOOKUP, guys. In Excel, you use the VLOOKUP. You can look up from workbook to workbook, from sheet to sheet also. provided there has to be one common field. There has to be one common field. And in VLOOKUP, they also say that it should be unique. It should not be repeated. But here the concept is different. It can be repeated. We're going to say, we're going to discuss all that, right? This is the most important part of the BI. Whenever I work with a new data, I always learn something in this. I'll give you some good articles also that I really like. There is a trainer which I just love him. He's very, very good. So I'll tell you, after doing all these practicals, you can always go and read his articles also on BI. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go and create a relationship between this ID and this ID. Right? So how are you going to do it? Obviously, we don't have VLOOKUP here. So we just go and drag this, pick this field, employee ID, and put this field here. Drag and drop this here in the employee ID. The moment you do that, the Power BI will open this window. Now, this is the window which, if you have started the Power Query, you may have noticed this window also there, right? This is, though in Power Query, it works differently. So you see, a relationship gets created in Power BI and now says, okay, so you have one table here, employee ID, you have another table and you have employee ID, and I can see that there is a relationship between that, which is called one-to-one. This is also called cardinality. In your interview, they ask you what you know about the cardinality, the types of cardinality. Well, there is a one-to-one, many-to-one, many-to-many. So one-to-many, there are 4 different types of cardinality. I'm going to tell you all, don't worry. Okay. So you see, when you said employee ID to employee ID, the relationship is now going to be created. And now why it says, first of all, one-to-one. Why it says one-to-one? Because in both the tables, the field is not repeated. The field is not repeated, right? If the field is repeated, then there is a relationship which is one-to-many or many-to-one that we will see, or many-to-many as well. It means that in both the tables, the common fields are repeated. But here, Power BI has detected the relationship, though you drag and drop that field, but what the relationship, the cardinality which Power BI will give you, that is called one-to-one. Okay. And this is the direction, which is always both in this case. So you need not to worry about that. It is the slicing, the filtering can happen from this table to this table also, from this to this. Doesn't matter, because all our fields are unique. They are not repeated. It is the simplest relationship we are discussing right now. You will not actually find this in practical world. Maybe 1 or 2% of cases you will find the tables are one-to-one, because generally tables are one-to-many or many-to-many. Let's see, right now, let's forget about everything. Let's say, this is one-to-one. I understand. Headers does not matter, but the data type matters. It should not be that this is not a numeric field. Okay, sometimes numbers can be entered as a text also. So data type has to be same. Otherwise, headers, they do not matter. Okay, EID, employee ID, fine. So I'm just going to save this relationship now. Okay, and now the BI is going to create a relationship. Now you see we have this relationship here, and it is in the both directions. As you can see, these 2 arrows, both the directions. So from here also the data can flow. From here also the data can flow. If you ever want to delete this, you can just go and right click on this and you can say delete. Okay. And if you want to modify this, for example, you want to change this to one to something else. Let's say, for example, right now you can't do that because it is one-to-one only. Okay. Because both the fields are there. They are not repeating. So you double click on this and this window will pop up. Just in case if you want to see the view again, double click on that. Okay. Sometime right now, these are only 2 tables. Maybe you have 6, 7 tables. Please remember the tables may come, behind this, the bar. So there is a scroll bar, which immediately, is pops up here. So just scroll it and see your tables. In case if you're worrying, where are my tables? I can't see my all tables, just in case. Okay. Right now, we don't have any such issue. So there's no scroll bar because these are just the 2 tables. Now let's go back here and let's see that. So what we have got here now, fantastic. You see that sales are coming here, quantity is coming here. The graph is also changed automatically. Of course, I have to change. I'm using the employee ID as this, but let's not focus on x-axis also. This is not a session on the charts, right? So you see, everything has popped up here automatically the moment the relationship gets created. Here we have created the employee ID here, this ID, and here we have used this employee ID. So it's a one-to-one relationship. You can use anything here. one-to-one relationship. If you will not have the relationship between these two tables, if I again go back here and I say that, I want to delete this, if I just delete this, the same problem will come. The information which you are using here from the other table, this is these labels, like these headers, or maybe here the x-axis, that information won't come. Within the table, yes, that we already know. Okay, so this is called the one-to-one relationship. In practical world, you can have multiple tables, guys. This is the point. So what if I want to create the visuals? I want to create a dashboard. I want to pull some information from one table, then another information from another table, like this. Now, if you ask me, but why do we need to create different tables? Let's put everything in the one table, right? Now, that is a concept of database designing. So there is a first normal form, there's a second normal form, there's a third normal form. This is basically, you learn a lot about this in databases, like SQL Server, Oracle, or Access database. Basically, the point is that there are some rules that we always need to follow. Otherwise, what happens? Your data gets collapsed, the calculation time increases. So they say that if you can split the tables into different parts, and you can avoid the duplicacy, right? That is the best way to manage your database, because then the calculations will be faster. Okay, I'll show you all that, but right now, let's see that. So, tables, even in Excel also, that it's very normal thing. You have the 2 tables, 3 tables, 4 different tables, isn't it? Right. So nothing new we are doing here in the BI. So this is how basically you go and create the relationship. Okay. Now please understand one thing. Whenever you import the data, the Power BI, this relationship Power BI automatically creates. Power BI has this ability. It is going to create the relationship automatically, right? Most of the time, it is always correct. And it may be possible that the relationship in the BI is creating maybe on the wrong fields, or maybe a relationship that you do not want, so that you always can delete or modify it, as I said, by double clicking on this. Okay. And if you say that, go in the file option here in the options and setting. If you say that I never actually want to create the relationship when I import the data, I don't want Power BI should do that, I will do myself, for example. So when you go in the option and setting and you click in this options here, you can off on this. So you go in the data load setting, and this is where you have to off this auto detect the new relationships after the data is loaded. In my case, it wasn't there, if you remember, right? Because I'm using these files again and again. Okay. Otherwise, when you import the data, Power BI always creates the relationships. If you're happy, good. If you're not, you can change it, you can delete it. This is the first thing now you know, right? So now you know that how we can get the information from one table to another table. We can pass on the information as well. And we have learned about one-to-one relationship right now. Why it is called one-to-one? Because the common fields are unique. They are not repeating, right? And this is something which is very, very rare, because most of the time when you have the databases, you have a lot of repetitions. But this is good for us to begin with. So we have created now, we have got the information from 2 tables. If you have another table, you can, create that relationship with that table as well. Okay. So anyways, so this is clear. Now let's save the file